All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another one and done. Today we're going to talk about the triangular prism. Like all prisms, prisms are three-dimensional shapes that are made up of a bunch of rectangles, and then every now and then we get a basic prism where two of the faces are not rectangles, okay? And when I refer to this, I'm not talking about the cube, and I'm not talking about the rectangular prism. They're pretty easy to work with. The ones that are most commonly dealt with in the beginning levels of geometry are triangular prisms, and then eventually we're going to talk about the trapezoidal prism. But right now our focus is the triangular prism. What you're going to notice about the triangular prism here is that every triangular prism has two triangular faces. If you look carefully at them, you'll notice immediately that they are exactly the same. When you calculate the volume and the surface area of a triangular prism, there's some certain key characteristics that you want to take a look at first, and a simple procedure that you want to do them both. So now when I begin, the way I tell students all the time is this. I always want to start with the volume first, because we're going to use some information that we find in the volume later on down the road when we calculate the surface area. A lot of these problems give you the shape and they say, hey, do this and that, find the volume and the surface area. So what you want to do is you want to calculate the volume first. So to calculate the volume, the first thing that you do is take the triangle, wherever the triangle is, pick either one because they're the same, and calculate the area of the triangle. If I were to take this triangle right now and I were to rearrange this triangle, okay, just spinning this thing around, this triangle is kind of look like this. If I looked at this, if I check this guy out, you're going to have this, this, and then last but not least, I'm going to have that. A lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people don't see that because the 10 is down there on the bottom triangle, yet the 6 and the 8 are with the triangle that's on the top. The hardest thing that students have to do is to identify which number goes with which of these edges on the 3D shapes. If you're able to master that, if you're able to take your time and master this, then everything else becomes a piece of cake. Your first step is to calculate the area of this triangle. So now you need to remember, okay, what did I have to do to find the area of a triangle? Well, the math formula for finding the area of a triangle is you had to take 1/2 times the triangle's base times the triangle's height. Now remember, when we talk about the base and the height of a triangle, they are the sides of the triangle that actually touch the box. So my base and height in any particular order are 8 and 6, depending on the orientation of the triangle. Obviously, right now, 6 is my base and 8 is my height, but if I flipped it over on its side, then they would obviously change. So it doesn't matter which one you call the base and which one you call the height, because remember, in elementary school, you learn that when you multiply three things together, it doesn't matter the order in which you multiply. So then if I go through and I do my math, if I take this and I do 1/2 multiplied by the base times the height, this is like saying 1/2 multiplied by 6, then multiplied by 8, and then voila, I'm going to get 24 for the area of my triangle. Now that's the first step. When you're finding the volume of a triangular prism, there are only two simple steps. You need to calculate the area of the triangular face first. Then, once you do that, the next step is even easier. So then I got my 24. What I need to then do is I need to take this number and then multiply it by, ready? I need to multiply it by how far apart in the prism are your trapezoids? How far apart? What is the distance from triangle to triangle in the triangular prism? So now that value or that number, how far they're apart, is 7.5. So 7.5 comes out to be, in fact, my multiplier. This is my second number, and that's it. If you thought that was quite simple to do, guess what? You're right, because it is. And then all I got to do now is take 24 multiplied by 7.5, and this is going to give me 180. It's feet, so feet cubed. All right, 180 feet cubed is going to be the volume of my triangular prism. Now, I'm going to then calculate the surface area, and I'm going to piggyback on this, all right? But one thing that I'm definitely going to need to know is I'm definitely going to keep this in mind. Remember, this was the area of the triangle, and then I'm going to explain why. So now 24, magic number, let's put it in the mind. Good. Now, let's clear the slate. Let's talk about the surface area, and let's calculate this. So now what I got to do is I then have to go piece by piece, region by region in the shape and calculate the area. And it should be a piece of cake. You got two triangles that are exactly the same, and then you got three rectangles going around this. So now I already know the area of this triangle on the top. I also know the area of this triangle on the bottom because they're exactly the same. The areas that we had were 24 and 24. So then I just found two pieces of my 5. Remember what I said, it doesn't get any easier than this. So then what you want to do slowly but surely is take and trace with your finger on the 3D shape. Try to figure out which numbers go with which of the rectangles, because now when you find the area of the rectangle, remember, you're just simply taking your length times your width. So the first rectangle I'm going to do in blue, I'm going to do the big guy in the front. I'm going to go around here a couple times. Notice I'm tracing this. The two numbers that are associated with this guy are 10 and 7.5. So then I'm going to take 10 and I'm going to multiply this by 7.5. And when I do so, this is going to be my next number that I'm going to add to the mix, which is 75. So far, so good. Everybody see specifically what we're talking about right now and how we do this and how we break this down? Because now what happens is I have two more rectangles that are in play here. Two more rectangles that are in play. You see, I have a rectangle that's here, that's on the back side on the right. Again, I'm going to keep tracing this guy out over and over again till I'm able to figure out specifically which two values go with this guy. 7.5 goes with this guy, and 8 goes with this guy. So that's going to be the next thing. So I'm going to take 8, and I'm going to multiply this by 7.5. And when I do so now, 8 times 7.5 is going to give me 60. So 60 is the next value that I'm going to have that I'm going to add to my mix. Last but not least, I got to do the bottom part here. I got this rectangle in the back end that I can't see on the left-hand side. So now I'm going to trace this out. I'm going to do this guy in orange. As I trace this guy out exactly like this, I got to identify again the numbers that are associated with them. One of them is 6, another one's 7.5. So then all I have to do is take 7.5 again, multiply this guy now by 6, and when I take 7.5 times 6, I get my last piece of the puzzle, and the last piece of the puzzle is 45. Now remember, anytime you add up numbers, do them twice. Make sure your numbers match. Last thing you want to do is be that guy or that gal that can't add numbers up together with calculator. So take your time when you're doing so. 24 plus 24 plus 75 plus 60 plus 45. And then do it again for good measure. Make sure your numbers match up. And now what we have here for a surface area is 228 feet squared. And that's that. Remember, there's no formula for finding the surface area of a triangular prism. There's no formula for finding the surface area of a trapezoidal prism or something like that. All you do is break it into little pieces, our basic shapes, and calculate the area of each piece that you have. Makes things, a lot simpler than you think. All right? I hope you found this both helpful and informative.